Hey guys, welcome back. Arcturus sent over a number of things recently. The first was one of their Sport series. Very impressive rifle, really enjoyed it. Used it for about half a day at Nighthawk Airsoft. The second rifle they sent over was one of their newer NY06 series. This is about a step up from there. It's still got a polymer body, but it has a nice aluminum rail system. Their new, really awesome stock, and some amazing internals for what you're paying for it. So, we're checking this out today, and I'm really excited to talk about it. Now, as tradition for my videos, we're going to talk about what the gun comes with really quickly and then get to the gun. Now, I'm just going to flash through everything this gun comes with. A Deans to Tamiya connector because the gun is wired to Deans. A actually kind of neat magnet that goes on your fridge, little Arcturus magnet. A Arcturus coaster, this one's for the PP19, pretty cool little AEG. A cleaning rod, kind of required for your airsoft gun. A quality control or quality assurance pamphlet here. They chrono it, they make sure everything comes with it, so I know that my gun's been checked over, and I'm very happy about this. I really wish more companies would do this. A pretty decent instruction manual goes over everything you really need to know to get your gun out on the field and running. A sticker sheet, which is actually kind of cool. Most airsoft guns nowadays come with a sticker or a patch or something neat. This comes with a whole sheet of stickers, so if you want to throw this all over your gun case, your car, or your work computer, I don't know, this is kind of a neat option. All right, really rapid fire through all the things it came with. Let's check the gun out. So I took this out the Nighthawk Airsoft with the Sports Series rifle as well. And I'll tell you, there aren't a lot of airsoft guns out there that I can really compare to Arcturus. Every time I take one of these out on the field, even stock, without tuning, I just put some decent BBs in it, adjust the hop up, plug a battery in, and go. I'm always really satisfied with the performance I get out of these and just their overall quality. Let's start with the stock of the airsoft gun and just go over the details and move our way forward from there. The stock on this gun is Arcturus's new crane-esque style stock. I like the design, I've been seeing it for a while, and I'm very happy to start seeing it on their airsoft guns and to get to try one out in person. The back is kind of ribbed and rubberized, and it will of course house your battery. So there's a little knob on the back, you twist it counterclockwise, and the back will hinge open. It is captive, it is pinned in place, and it just hinges there. It's really nice because I'll tell you, I find way too many back plates from stocks on the airsoft field, and I've got a collection of them at this point. You can just close it very simply, and it's good to go. Also in there is a Deans connector, which is really great. I am so tired of putting Deans connectors on every single airsoft gun I get because they're all Tamiya, and all my batteries are Deans. Also on the stock is a quick detach sling point. You can hook it up on either side. For most of the day out at Nighthawk, I just kind of slung my airsoft gun from my neck on my Magpul sling and was really comfortable, especially how light this gun is with the polymer body. It worked out really well, and I was happy with it all day. It is a telescoping stock, so you don't have your multiple positions there, and just in front of that you do have your sling plate here, so if you want to sling it another way, you don't have a quick detach, you've got that option as well. The selector on this gun is ambi, works on both sides, and it actually has a really solid detent. On the other side, you can still use it pretty well, but it takes a little bit more force, being that it's a gear driven through the gearbox from one side to the other. The grips on these are Arcturus's really nice grips, has a nice beaver tail, and I actually really like them. They're very comfortable. Moving up the gun a little bit, we do have the hop up, and it does use a working bolt catch. Now, thankfully, this gun has all ambi controls. The selector, the bolt catch, and the magazine release are all ambi, and you can use them on both sides, which is really fantastic. So if I want to drop the bolt, or the fake bolt in this case, I can do that with my index finger on the right side, or the traditional paddle that's on the left. Same with the magazine release, of course, that's on the right, and it is also on the left side as well. So if you guys are a lefty or a righty, doesn't matter, this gun works for everyone. Underneath the fake bolt on this gun, charge it, and it is your rotary style polymer hop up. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the internal section of this review. And the magazine that comes with the gun is their 30 and 130 round mid cap. So you can switch between the two capacities. There's a little switch on the inside of this. Take the bottom plate off and the top pin out, slide the entire internal section out. If you want a 30 round reel cap, you can do that. If you want a much better capacity 130 round mag, it comes set to that already. It also has an extended follower on top to feed most, if not all, the BBs out of the magazine. The rail system on this particular gun is a 13.5-inch rail. Actually very solid, doesn't creak or rock at all on the gun. Very, very pleased with it. It does have T-marks on top, while the receiver, because it's polymer, does not. It is an aluminum m-lok handguard, so if you want to put your m-lok slots or rails on here, you can do that. It also has a couple of quick detach sling points on either side, so really, really convenient. Very light, very comfortable. If you want to do that C-clamp way up here, you've got that option. The gun does come with sights, but they are not attached when you get the gun, so you will have to attach them, and it comes with the Allen key to do that, so it's super fast and easy. The rear sight is adjustable simply for windage, and it does have 2 peep apertures, small and large. You can just flip one to the other. The front one is simply adjustable for elevation. They are not spring-loaded. You do have to manually flip them up and down, but they're pretty nice and fairly low-profile sights. On the front of the gun, it will come with a plastic orange flash hider when you get it, but it also comes in the box with a metal 3-prong flash hider. You will have to use the grub screw from the plastic flash hider, so keep that around. It's nice that they include this. You know, no one ever likes the orange flash hiders, but unfortunately in the US, you need those for shipping. So thankfully they include a nice black one here that's easy to install. Now, let's take the gun apart on the tech table and see what the internals are like. All right, we've got all the internals out of the gun, namely the motor, which is actually a pretty nice motor, the gearbox, and the hop up and barrel, and I've already taken the spring and spring guide out because it is a quick change spring system. The motor is one of Arcturus'S new neodymium magnet torque motors. The torquiness of it kind of feels like a mix between a torque and a speed motor, kind of almost like a nice balanced motor. It looks like, from the label, it says it's a 24K motor. The hop up chamber is polymer and is a rotary style. It has clicks, kind of really soft notches almost that the wheel hits as it turns around, but it's only for about the first half. As you actually increase hop more, there are no clicks, which I find a little bit interesting. I wish it had clicks all the way around the rotation. You can kind of hear in there softly. There's also a pretty nice hefty spring that pushes the hop up against the front of the gearbox for a hopefully better air seal. The barrel is one of Arcturus'S really solid steel inner barrels. It's a 6.02 bore, has a pretty decent crown. This one's a little over 363 millimeters long. The accuracy on these is actually really, really good. I've been very, very impressed with them. The bucking is pretty standard, gets a fairly good air seal. You'll notice that it does have 2 points of contact on the mound there, so it's kind of like an H or an M-num, whichever you'd like to call it. As this is a quick change spring gearbox, I've gone ahead and taken out the spring and spring guide. The spring guide is all metal, really nice steel, and is bearing as well, so that's a big, big plus. The spring feels right around like an M110 spring or so. I noticed they did paint it red on the back. I wonder if that's to identify it as one of their higher FPS springs at the factory. Gets right around that nice like upper field FPS on the chrono, so that really helps it being a field gun. It's kind of an interesting gearbox. I noticed a portion of it here is a little bit more polished than the rest of it. I'm not sure what happened there. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just kind of almost a blemish per se, and since it's in the gun, you never really see it. The gearbox shell is really quite robust and pretty hefty. I really like it. There's kind of a dimpled, heavier reinforcement around both the front and the back of the cylinder window, just in case any cracking might occur. This helps to get rid of that potential. It's also radiused on the front and back a little bit there, which is a plus for me. Any gearbox that's doing that nowadays, I think it's kind of a must. You can see it is an 8mm gearbox. It uses both bushings and bearings. The bevel gear has bearings on it, and the other 2 gears have bushings on them. On the other side of the gearbox, there is a window to decock your gearbox or uncycle it. Well, looks like it's as good as it's going to get there. And you'll notice too, the flat trigger on here is actually really nice. Has almost a real firearm feel with the micro switch and the trigger. I really like the trigger pull on it. You can it's got some take up, a nice wall, and a click, and a really audible reset. It really actually feels strangely like a real firearm trigger. The gearbox comes set up with a really great quality T or Dean's connector. Very, very happy with that, so I didn't have to solder it or swap it out or anything like that. And you've got an inline, very skinny, very small MOSFET to protect your trigger contacts there, or in this case, your micro switch. I ran this on a 7.4 for most of the duration, but I ran another one of these on an 11.1 without any issues. They really hold up quite well, it seems. All right, we can go ahead and pop open the gearbox shell here. right, let's go ahead and look at the compression system here. Tappet plate, it's pretty standard, fairly rigid. The nozzle is their CNC nozzle, which I really like these. Has an O-ring on the inside, kind of a triangular cut on the front, which you see in a lot of upgraded nozzles, which is really nice. The piston is a full steel rack piston with the second to last tooth removed. Speed cuts in there, I really like these. I've had quite a few of them in a lot of guns, run them pretty hard, and never had issues. Very happy with them. Palm or piston head's ported, and there are bearings down inside of the piston, so it is a bearing piston head. Cylinder head is just your plain old polycarb cylinder head. Gets a really nice seal inside of the cylinder. And of course, the air seal, as I've come to expect from Arcturus, is perfect. Now let's try it with the nozzle. Lose a little bit of air there, so it's not quite a perfect seal with the nozzle, but it's still very good. Something else I've noticed with Arcturus is very consistently their shimming is at least an A-, if not an A+ quality. This particular gun, the shimming is spot on. The spacing between the gears is excellent. There's little to no axial play. It's about as minimal as you can get it without being the most like OCD shimmer in the world. And even then, I'm not even sure you can get it any tighter. So very happy with how well this gearbox is shimmed. Because I'm a picky reviewer, for the most part, I do want to touch on how the gearbox is lubricated. I'd say it's pretty mildly lubricated. The piston itself has a little bit on it, not much. The O-ring is kind of where it's at for the most part there. The bushings and bearings have kind of a little bit on there. The gears themselves have a little bit less. It's definitely present, but it seems a little dry. I'd probably put a little bit on there, and definitely when I close this back up, I'm gonna put a thicker coat of lubricant on each of these components. It's definitely there, but I feel like it's a little bit minimal. Now, my overall thoughts on their newest iteration on the NY06 series. I was really impressed. Took that aside on the field for the latter half of a day out at Nighthawk Airsoft, and I'll tell you, the field owner out there actually pulled me aside afterward and asked what this gun was, because he was impressed I was hitting him at such a distance pretty consistently, and I told him it's the new Arcturus. And I'll tell you, when the field owner comes by and says, dude, that's a nice gun, that counts for a lot. So the fact that this is a stock, out-of-the-box gun goes a long way, and it was really nice to hear that from someone who had no idea what it was. Overall, the gun is awesome. These are going to run probably about the mid-200s or so in the US, give or take, and I think that's a really fair price point for them. You've got the pretty decent motor that's in here. The internal tuning is really good. Very pleased with it. I didn't have to adjust the shimming at all, so that was really nice. It does have the inline MOSFET, so I feel confident running an 11.1 on this. A lot of airsoft guns nowadays, they say LiPo ready. That's a marketing term, it really doesn't mean anything. So when you can plug an 11.1 into a gun, it is tuned well enough and runs well enough to take an 11.1 volt without having to open it up or get it tuned by a tech, that's saying something. The range on this gun was impressive. I was running 0.32 gram BBs through it, which is like my go-to BB. And I'll tell you, it was reaching out without a problem. It was kind of almost hitting the maximum effective hop with those 3.2s, so any heavier than that I wouldn't do. I'd probably even run a little bit lighter, like 3s or 2.8s through this gun. But with 3.2s, I could just get that little extra oomph and range from it, and I'll tell you, this thing really performed. It could reach out probably 180 to 200 feet without a problem. It was very consistent. The groupings were solid with that good steel barrel and pretty solid bucking, and I really can't complain at all. I got plenty of kills, and honestly, most of the time I could outrange most of the people shooting at me. A lot of players out there, they've got their new stock guns from other companies, and this can generally outrange them. The speed on this gun sits right around that 400 FPS mark. On the quality assurance pamphlet I got, it said right like 401, 402. I chroned it with 2.5s and was getting about 375, give or take. So about 40 FPS jump there, you're looking at about 410, 415. Some fields might think that's a little too hot. It just depends. You might need to put a slightly lower FPS spring in it. It's hard to say, but this is a really solid field gun. The rate of fire in 11.1 is about 16, 17 rounds a second. It's fairly snappy. The rate of fire is pretty decent with 11-1 with that torque motor. And that's right about why I want it. If I'm gonna go out on the field and run 11.1 volt, I don't want something that's gonna go through 40 or 50 rounds a second. That's just wasteful, excessive, and honestly, it hurts people. So something that's running in that kind of the mid-teens, 16, 17 rounds a second on 11.1, that's great. I think it's a fine rate of fire, and I'm really happy with it. Finally, I've got to give this gun a grade. And I've got to say, I'm gonna give this gun a 10. There's not a lot of guns I would give a 10 out of 10 to, but this is one of them. For the price point, the quality, and the performance, I really can't take a whole lot off, or anything for that matter. It's a solid gun. I really enjoy it. Looking forward to taking out more on the field, actually, in the near future. Thank you, Arcturus, for sending this out. This is really awesome. Guys, keep an eye out for more reviews from me for Arcturus products in the very near future. They did send me a few other products to check out, so it's going to be some cool stuff coming down the road very soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.